this year, I'm just going to try and make sure that everything's still ticking, because I don't want to burn out before the year's over, because it's a big year this year, and if I'm not indestructible, then I could lose everything.
Hi, I'm Sophie and I'm joined by the ever wonderful Dylan for the latest instalment of NME's In Conversation series. Dylan, how are we today?
I'm very good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's lovely to see you. So 2022 was obviously a huge year for you. You sort of went from an underrated status into the mainstream. What was navigating that transition like and suddenly having a much bigger audience?
Stressful.
Right.
I think I'm not sure that I was totally expecting it. So from going to having like zero fan base to suddenly having quite a large one was a shock to the system, because obviously it alters how you have to interpret everything and how you have to present yourself and how strong you have to be and how much you have to do in order to keep everyone happy. So I think it was a bit of a shock to the system, but loving it.
Definitely, and I imagine there were sort of many pinch me moments for you last year. Is there sort of any highlights that really stick out when you look back at 2022?
I think last year I crossed off a lot on my bucket list. I was very, very, very lucky with some of the things I did last year. I mean, the two biggest moments I think for me were obviously playing Wembley, because that's something that I've dreamed about forever. And then playing on the main stage at Latitude was another huge highlight, because there was actually a crowd and I was first on, so I was thinking, I've been to that festival for years, no one turns up for that slot, but there were so many people there. And then, I mean, in the smaller things, over Christmas I got recognised in my local chippy, which is
huge.
Big moment. Huge move.
Just sort of tops everything else. Like, forget supporting Ed Sheeran.
Who?
Forget Latitude. You got recognised in your chippy. So when you actually played at Wembley supporting Ed Sheeran, you sort of had a Wembley first in the way that you actually broke the sound system, right? What was that like to get on stage, sort of biggest moment of your life, and the sound goes?
Well, I mean, not many people have played Wembley. But not many people have played Wembley and had the entire sound system shut off. I don't think we broke it, although I'd like to think that we did. It was terrifying, I won't lie. Although, weirdly, that wasn't my least favourite of the five.
Right.
Because I think adrenaline kicks in more than I was already experiencing. And I think I just got everyone to sing like Sweet Caroline for a bit. And then we were pulled off the stage. It happened like 3 times. Wow. And it was during Girl of Your Dreams, which I was releasing like the next week. So it was like high tension.
Yeah.
It was nerve-wracking, but actually ended up being quite entertaining.
When you talk about how Wembley was sort of always a lifelong dream for you, what was it like to walk off the stage after the final support slot and think, like, I did that? Like, how did you feel?
I was gutted.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, I'm really hoping that I'll get to do that again someday. But like to play a full half an hour set, supporting someone like Ed, I mean, it's just like, that's life-changing. And I've been envisioning that show. Weirdly, those 5 shows were the least nervous I've been for shows ever, because I've played that venue so many times in my head, like growing up and just before I go to sleep, that I felt like I knew exactly what I needed to do. But yeah, it's just made me very hungry to get back there.
I can't imagine sort of the euphoria of screaming Hello Wembley when you walk on stage. Like, how many times did you practice that before you got up there?
I mean, as I said, been practicing that forever, but I don't think it came out how I wanted it to any of the nights, because all 5 nights I did a run-up. Like I sort of explained to the crowd, I was like, right guys, I have been waiting years and years and years to do this, and my dad has been training me to say this since I was about 5 years old, so I'm going to do a run-up. And then I'd like really sheepishly run away and then run back up to the mic and be like, hello Wembley! But with like all kinds of voice cracks and just too much excitement going on for it to be like, I mean, it definitely wasn't like a moment, it was more like a vibe, but it was, pretty special.
Definitely. So as we sort of look forward to the new year, what lessons are you maybe taking from last year into 2023?
I think what I have been ignoring ever since starting music, just because, I'm 23, I haven't been very good at looking after myself.
Right.
That always comes last. And so this year, I'm just going to try and make sure that everything's still ticking, because I don't want to burn out before the year's over, because it's a big year this year, and if I'm not indestructible, then I could lose everything.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what have you sort of put in place to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, particularly as you've got so many huge live dates this year, which is just as exciting as it is scary, right?
Yeah, I mean, started working out.
Great.
Which is, I hate so much. I hate it. I really, really hate it. But it's for the good. Like eating healthy, got a nutritionist that's telling me that I'm just not looking after myself and I don't have an immune system, and I'm like, cool. And I think just like checking in mentally a lot. I'm not very good at saying I need a break or I need to stop. So definitely gonna use that this year.
Yeah, it's a process, right? And I mean, you had some huge life changes last year as well. You moved to London, right? Which was really exciting for you.
Yeah.
How have you been settling into sort of the community in London and finding your place as a musician as well as living here in the capital?
I mean, I love it here. And also I've met some brilliant, brilliant artists who I've seen rather a lot of, because obviously we cross paths in festivals and gigs and go to see each other's shows. But I think, it's a big place. I think I prefer it to like that of New York, because it just feels a bit more like home here.
Right, totally.
But yeah, I like it.
Great. And I mean, who are some of those artists that you've been building a community with?
So I've been spending a lot of time with like Mae Muller, Rachel Chonariri, Sodi, met Cat Burns the other day.
Amazing.
After doing a bit of a tour with Barra and Olivia, we've now become friends. There's something special happening around that maybe soon. I can't tell you what it is.
We'll just have to keep watching for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess, as like you said, the past year was a whirlwind for you, and you're sort of looking forward to this year and maybe finding better routines to sustain yourself. How do you think your sort of perception on fame and success has changed as things have picked up? Like, what are your priorities now that you may not have had when you first started out as a musician?
I think my perception of what it would be is entirely different to what it is. There's so much that you have to be and be able to do in today's music industry. And I kind of thought that it was just like, I'll sit and write my stupid songs and then go and play them live. But there's so much more to it than that. Like, you have to be able to do everything, which I think is it's scary, but I'm acclimatizing. I wouldn't say that I have either of those things yet. So I'm still not entirely sure. But we're getting there.
I mean, the fans have been super supportive as well, right? You've got fans that have had tattoos, they've done fan projects at your shows. How amazing has that been for you to sort of see how that fan base has not only grown, but they've become really close to you?
I absolutely adore all of them. They're so special. And like, even when it came to touring, because I had my own tour in November last year.
Yeah.
It was something that I've never felt before. There was such a sense of community, and I mean, I would take a bullet for that lot. They are brilliant, and they are so funny, and they are so dedicated, and they are always there. But also they're like such a support system to just like lean on emotionally, because everything that I'm writing about, I'm sort of, giving them on a plate, and they're like, yeah, we get it. Which is so, so special.
Do you think maybe there's a sense that the fans sort of always pushing you to look after yourself and, become a better version of yourself?
I get a lot of tweets being like, have you drunk water today? And I'm like, no!
I love how they're always there for you in that way, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a couple of Twitter accounts, actually. It's like, there's one called Dylan's Safe Space, where it's like a reason to exist every day.
Wow.
And they come up on my feed and I'm like,
That's so cute. I mean, on the other end of the scale as well, you've got fans that are always sort of tweeting you jokes and memes and things like that online. What's sort of like the maddest thing that you've seen online recently in terms of...
There's this one fan account called like Dylan's Guitars fan page.
Right.
Where they made like... they made like this weird animation of two of my guitars, like romantically getting involved.
Wow.
And then one of them cheating on the other guitar with Ed Sheeran's guitar. And then it was like a whole hoo-ha. But it's like a whole like 2-minute video.
It's a lot.
It's so weird, but I love it.
No, they've definitely been a huge part of like the live experience as well, like you said, and on that November tour last year where they brought the signs, they'd made a fan project. When it comes to touring, how do you think you've sort of grown as a performer in recent months? Like you've been on the road for months and months on end recently.
I mean, there was a lot of playing live last year. I feel like there wasn't really a moment where I wasn't on tour. I think it's just a lot more natural for me now. Like I have less fear of it. It's more just actually getting on the stage and then I'm fine. Like it doesn't take me 3 songs to sort of stop violently shaking anymore. I still need to pee every time before I go on stage. Like it's such an issue.
Yeah, but we'll get there.
But yeah, I think it's giving me an idea of how I want to build it. Like how I see the show being like by the end of this year.
Right.
Like I think it's all about growing that, and I just love being on stage. That's the best part of the job.
And what are you hoping that live show will look like by the end of 2023? Like you said, you've got the vision now. What is that looking like for you?
But I think that, I mean, I'm obsessed with lights, so definitely, because that was one thing from the November show in London, that I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Love lights. Blindingly obsessed. And I also want to maybe add a 4th band member.
That's exciting.
Get a bass player, because, you know, my bass player is just unaffordable right now.
So sort of last year as well was huge in that your debut mixtape, The Great Thing, I'll Never Learn, hit the top 20, which I know was a really emotional moment for you. Why was it so important for you to sort of work and get that chart position?
I mean, I think with the way that the industry is, it's very hard to like get your foot in the door and like feel like I'm here. And I hadn't had a top 40 single, and I'd only really just been signed. There wasn't really anything, like a lot of people sort of knew about me, but also kind of didn't. There was way more people that were thinking, is this Bob? Like, who is it? And so to get that before the end of the year was like a real like moment of, okay, it's fine. Like the fans have got me.
Yeah.
And it's gonna pay off at some point. And I feel like that was my little foot in the door sort of thing. Like, I am here, guys. Don't forget about me. I'm coming.
And I mean, with that mixtape as well, for those who have been a fan of you for a while, I think many people would have realised you sort of really found your sound on that project, right?
Definitely.
In previous years, we sort of had a bit more electronica influence, pop, but now it feels like you're really going for the rock influence and really living in that. Would you think that's like fair to say that you're really comfortable in your sound now?
Yeah, definitely. It's getting there.
It's getting there.
Slow and steady.
And I think some of the songs on there as well were sort of more candid from you than we'd seen previously, songs like Blue. What was it like to really sort of open up in a way that you hadn't in your music previously?
Terrifying. But I think that's just because I'm quite used to like being defensive rather than being emotional and actually opening up and talking about what I'm going through. So having those songs on there, it kind of felt a bit liberating actually, because I've spent so long in sort of silence of that, that actually getting some of it out was, again, A, looking after my mental health, but B, showing a different side to me, which I think is really important.
When you were sort of working on the songwriting process for that mixtape, was there a particular track where you'd finished it and it sort of felt like letting out a sigh of relief?
I think Home is Where the Heart Is, which is the last song on the mixtape, was a really special song to do because I was so ill when we wrote it. Like, those vocals are hilarious because I had the biggest chest infection ever.
No one noticed. No, it just
adds to the growl. But we wrote and recorded that in one day. And everything was done. And I think through doing that song and then listening to it at the end of the day, it was such a woof of emotion that I felt like it was everything that I hadn't said over the last couple of years. And so it just took like the biggest weight off my shoulders.
Totally. And what were some of the main artistic goals with that mixtape? Like, sort of looking back at it now, do you think you sort of achieved everything that you were hoping to go in with?
I mean, I think everyone always looks back on projects and goes, okay, well, this could have been better, this could have been better. But if we don't do that, then it's never going to improve. And like artistically, I think that it was everything that I needed to discover about myself in that moment in time. I think that's still it's a ever-going process, and it will keep changing and changing a little bit. But like, that was a big revelation for me to finally find a place, like in music genre-wise, that I was comfortable writing in, or that I enjoyed writing in, rather than trying to be everyone else.
And I guess sort of looking forward to this year, do you think that mixtape was perhaps a good stepping stone for the work that you want to start putting in on your debut album?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
I think it's preparing.
Do you sort of have any influences or visions in mind for where you want this debut album to take you?
I think I just want it to be extremely unapologetic and honest, like the mixtape. But just be a bit more like groundbreaking. Better songs, better production. Just make a statement. Because I feel like, I've still got a lot of growing to do.
Okay.
And I want to grab people's attentions. Attentions? All of their attentions.
Everyone on the planet.
And I think that's I don't want to try and be too clever about that, especially in this day and age.
Totally.
I just want to write songs and be like, right, this is what I stand for, and then hopefully people will latch onto it.
I guess, do you think that complete transparency that you're having in your music is why so many people are resonating with it?
Yeah, I also think it's why I can't get a relationship.
I mean, we can put it on the to-do list for 2023, we can work on it.
Transparency, yeah! Gonna run out of stuff to write about it.
So looking to the months that are coming ahead, obviously you've got a huge headline tour locked in, but you're also going to be heading back to the US to play some dates with Ed Sheeran. What was your reaction like when you knew that you were going to hit the road with him once again, having already built that relationship with Ed last year at Wembley?
I was so excited. I was so excited just because, like, I love Ed and I think he is the most talented human on the planet. But I just love his team and I love his crew. They are so entertaining and so funny. So I'm just happy to be amongst that lot again. It doesn't really feel like work, but also getting to play stadiums is it's such a big dog move. I love it.
It's huge, especially like so early on in your career.
Yeah, I've definitely getting the experience in now.
And what have you maybe learnt from watching Ed play night after night? He's obviously renowned for his live show, particularly as a one-man band. Have you taken anything from watching his own live show?
I think that, one person can make a lot of noise. Because obviously there's only 3 of us in my band. And a few people being like, oh, is that going to be big enough to fill out a stadium? Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Totally.
I mean, I don't know. He's just so chill. And when things go wrong, he's so graceful about it. He's like, well, it just shows you it's a live show. But also, I've learned that no one will ever be as talented as him. Watching that show, you're kind of like, well, great.
That's it. And I mean, you've been breaking your own ground in the US. Obviously, you played your own sold-out headline shows there last summer. How does it feel knowing you're going to be going back and the audience is going to be even bigger there?
I'm just happy that I get to go over there.
Yeah.
And hoping to obviously do my own shows out there, but need to get an audience first, which is why I'm very, very thankful for Ed.
Totally. And I mean, when you did visit the US last summer, that was one of your first times over in the States, right? What was that like? It must have been quite overwhelming, not only having not been to the US many times, but playing your own shows.
Scary. Very, very scary. That was really like one of the most intimidating gigs for me last year, just because it felt really, really unnatural to be playing a show that wasn't in the UK.
Right.
Or expecting that there were people on the other side of the planet that wanted to listen to my music, or that had listened to my music. And like playing the New York show, it was so loud. They were so loud, and I was just like, oh my god. So I'm really excited to go back.
I mean, reflecting on the past year, when you look back at everything that you achieved in the space of 12 months, what makes you feel really proud out of all of it?
I think that I got through it. There was a sort of a point at the beginning of last year where I was like, I don't know if am I cut out to do this? Like, am I strong enough for this? Because with like hate and people on the internet, people could be mean, and I'm such a people pleaser that one comment can send me into an absolute spiral, which is so annoying because it shouldn't. But yeah, I think that getting through last year and getting to the place where I wanted to be for this year, I'm really proud of that. And I'm not often very proud of myself. But yeah, you know.
Felt like an achievement in itself, right?
Yeah.
And amongst everything else that you achieved career-wise.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for the rest of the year, like you said, you've got new goals, new nutritionist, everything's going on for you. What's really on the bucket list for 2023, and what can we expect to see from Dylan?
You know what? There's so many things. There's a few things in particular, but I would really like to get a single into the charts this year.
That's number one goal, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to do whatever it takes to make it happen.
I will try my best. I don't really know how you go about doing that. I don't know whether I have a seriously brilliant, dedicated fan base, but I feel like I need more of them in able to achieve that, and I have to win a few people over. But, you know, I can try. I'm going to try. If you told me at the beginning of last year that I would have been on the main stage at Latitude and done Wembley and sold out my November tour, I would have slapped you on the face and been like, oh, you know, piss off. There's no way. So I feel like I'm going to go ballsy this year. Let's go with that.
And what do you think sort of the ballsiest targets that
do you not
we
think
can
a top
set?
40 singles are like a...
I mean,
that's
it's nothing
ballsy.
in itself, but do we have anything else beside the one?
I would like to write a really, really good album, which is scary because that means I have to, like for the mixtape, I have to dive back into my feelings, which I hate doing. But yeah, I think that's a big personal goal, as well as getting through this year.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like just making it through to the end of the year.
Those are three goals in itself.
Yeah.
The album, the top 40, and getting through the year. You can't ask for much more, really, can you? Well, thank you so much for speaking to us today, and we look forward to seeing what's happening in 2023.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.